Now ring the bell, guys. Ring the bell. West Ultra. Sure. Here we go. Ring it. Well, someone forgot. There you go. Remember to ring the bell. Market's closed. Wall Street. We're open here. Good day on the street, pretty much across the board. I'll go through it. Dow Jones looks like it's going to end up around 580 points. So everything on Friday, I think, was down 450 on Friday. Dow Jones made it back. And then some. NASDAQ also up 400. Again, more higher today than it lost on Friday. S&P up a bit. Gold was in the midst of everything else. Gold up also, guys. Gold is up to $3,430 an ounce. Here's the good news. Oil back down again, down $1.24, right around $66 a barrel. That's all good news. And then the one we always talk about, crypto, Bitcoin up. At one point, it was up 2,000 up to 115.5. It looks like we're going to finish around 114,700 to the Bitcoin. So that's good news. Basically, good news across the board. Not a negative thing flashing on the market. So a lot of things going very, very well for this economy right now. And our first guest is the Congresswoman from the great state of Georgia, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who we love having on the show today. Congresswoman, really, really good to have you on the show. Thank you for coming on. You posted to X. You posted a very interesting comment to X, and I'm going to let you tell us what it's all about. I also read an interview that you did with the Daily Mail. It's very fascinating because I think you are tapping into something that a lot of people, especially the MAGA folks, maybe are getting a bit confused about. But the floor is yours, my dear Congresswoman.
Well, thank you, Eric. I'm not sure which post you're referring to. I've posted a couple of them in the past few days. But I think the interview you're talking about is basically my feelings and many others that I'm talking to is how we voted in this historic election in 2024 that was really a referendum on establishment Washington and the Republican Party on the changes that we wanted. We want America first, and we really sincerely meant it. And that means a departure from the neocons running Washington and sending our tax dollars over to foreign wars. That means a departure from sending our hard-earned tax dollars in all types of foreign aid. Because the reality is, Eric, my kids are 22, 25, and 27. And it's that generation that I unapologetically care about more than anyone else on this planet. And these kids today, or young adults today, they can hardly afford rent. They don't think they're ever going to be able to buy a home. They can't afford car insurance. Health insurance is extremely expensive. And the cost of living is very, very high. And they're looking at the job market right now where many American jobs are replaced by H-1B visas. They're looking at the job market today, coming out with expensive college degrees, not knowing where they can find a job or what kind of career they can pursue. But yet we're seeing Washington, D.C. and the Republican Party being completely tone deaf. We're out on August recess right now. And we have a $37 trillion debt. We have a September 30th government funding deadline, and we're nowhere near finished with appropriations. So they're telling us we're going to get another CR, which is unacceptable. And I'm just asking, I'm like, wait a minute, what is happening to the GOP?
So you're touching on something I think a lot of us in MAGA world are a bit confused about, right? And it's this whole idea of America first. I believe, I'll speak for myself here. I believe America first means enough of the foreign wars, enough of funding, backing Ukraine, enough of sending money to a Middle East conflict between Hamas and Israel, enough of all of those things. Let's bring it back to the United States. Some of the things that the administration has pivoted on. I mean, I believe Trump said he was through with all those things before he was elected, seems to have changed. Now, I also read in that article, in that interview, that you don't blame Trump, you blame the party. As the leader of the Republican Party, doesn't the buck stop with Donald Trump?
Well, for one, it seems to be all the people that did not support him during his campaign. I was one of the loudest people that supported him during the campaign, but it's all the others that came on after he won the general election. Those seem to be the people that have the red carpet rolled out to them to the Oval Office. And I think that has a lot to do with who the people are in the White House. Also in Congress, it's interesting how I have all these Republican colleagues of mine who were hardcore never-Trumpers, hardcore anti-MAGA, but yet all of a sudden they're running around wearing MAGA hats and boasting about every time they talk to the president. And so I don't think the president is listening to the right people who are his true supporters, people like myself and others. It seems to be everyone else has, establishment Washington, establishment Republicans, the people that the base is absolutely sick of are the ones that have the president's ear. And I find that very frustrating. And I think that's why we're seeing the results that we're seeing. But Eric, you're completely right. We said no more foreign wars. And here we are, we are continuing to fund Israel's war, basically against whoever they want to go to war with. And Republicans will never back off of that. At least they showed that when I introduced an amendment to stop funding it. There were only 6 members of Congress that voted for my amendment, and that includes myself. They're running back into providing weapons and funding for Ukraine, which is absolutely ridiculous. Americans across the board do not want to have anything to do with that war, and we don't want to go to war with Russia. We aren't interested in that at all. But I think what is bothering so many people is to see the America First president and the party that's supposed to be America First making it what seems to be a departure from being actually America First. And I love the president. I support him, but it's the right thing to do to call this out when I see it. And when I'm hearing it from my constituents and hearing it every single day from people all across the country.
I'm going to agree with you on some of this discussion we're having here. There was no bigger supporter to Donald Trump in 2015 and 2016 when he ran the first time. I was at Fox. I was fighting with co-hosts on the 5 in favor of Trump. I was one of the first people. And for that, I was very much rewarded during the first presidency. I interviewed him 7 times in the 4 years, person to person. I've never varied from that. I'm still MAGA. I'm still America First. I'm still pro-Trump. But there are a lot of new people, not new bros, so to speak, that he's spending a lot of time with and maybe has his ear, and maybe he's getting some, maybe not so traditional, original gangster OG MAGA advice from. And I'm trying to figure out who it is. I don't know that MAGA would be thrilled with a Mike Johnson speaker or a John Thune, Senate Majority Leader. If we had our druthers, obviously we don't. Trump gets to decide who those folks are. But I think there is. But where do you think it stems from? I know Trump, his true north is MAGA. Steve Bannon, MAGA North. And this is some variation of that. Now, is it because he wants to have a bigger tent, so to speak? Is that maybe one explanation?
Well, I'm not sure, and I certainly can't speak for the president. I'll never try to do that. But I think it's who he's talking to constantly, day in and day out. And those are the people, I think, that were the biggest donors in the 2024 campaign. We're definitely seeing the tech industry get their way. We're seeing the AI industry get their way. And we're seeing the crypto industry get their way. And this is all happening before we're seeing major changes that affect the everyday working American, retired people, and especially my kids' generation. And that's where you're seeing a major pull away. You're seeing a pull away in primarily people, I would say, anywhere ranging from 40 to 50 and under, and then drastically, especially under 30, because these are the people that are getting hit the hardest. And they're saying, we're never going to get to be able to buy a house. And it's not just interest rates are the reasons, it's the cost of housing and the availability. I mean, when you've got companies like Blackstone buying up all the houses and turning them into rental homes, and no one in Washington, D.C. is willing to do anything about it, well, you have 20 and 30-year-olds who are frankly pissed off, and rightfully so. And I'm their mom. And Eric, when it comes to my kids, there's nobody I'll fight harder for. And I hate the term mama bear because I don't really think of myself that way. I was never one of those helicopter moms. But I am fighting in Washington, D.C. to affect the policies and the direction of the Republican Party because I want it to serve my kids' generation. And I think that's the right thing that we should be doing. Another thing is there's a big difference in the uber millionaire and billionaire class of people which is a much smaller percentage of Americans that may be constantly talking to the president. There's a big difference in how they think versus how someone like me and you, Eric, how we think and how we're looking at what needs to happen. And here's how I see it. The Republican Party is going to lose voters drastically. I'm giving out the warning right now, and I can't make these sirens sound loud enough. The Republican Party is going to lose people drastically unless they get with the program and get on the America First train. And that's what President Trump has always been about, is America First. But yet I think he has people tugging him and pulling him. He's got neocons like Lindsey Graham, Mark Levin, you name it, this whole crowd pulling him to support these foreign wars, probably telling them that it creates jobs in America. The defense industry, those are the kind of jobs we need to stop creating. We can create a lot of other jobs in America instead of building weapons to destroy and kill people. But I think that's what's happening. And it's the lobbyists in Washington, D.C. and the major industry players. And his phone is ringing off the hook from foreign leaders from countries all over the world, begging and pleading and demanding this and that from Donald Trump. Well, you know what? The American people are the ones that matter the most. And that's who he should be talking to. And that's where we need his interest to get redirected back to. And Congress, you can't say enough about the House and Senate, Eric. It is a pathetic mess. And it's Republican controlled. And I have a lot of criticism. That's where most of my criticism lies, is there needs to be a lot of changes in Congress.
Indeed. And one thing that should not be changed is Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene staying MAGA, America First. We know you will. We're right there with you. We support you every single step of the way, MTG. Stay tough. And yeah, hopefully the powers that be in Washington realize that MAGA is what got him there, and he'll come back to it at some point. I'm not saying he's varying from it, but he certainly listened to some people that may not have America First MAGA in the best interest of their heart. Marjorie Taylor Greene, great having you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thanks, Eric.
All right, folks, before we head to break, I'm not going to do anything other than tell you this. I've been working on something behind the scenes. It's big. It's going to be very big. I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to tease you a little bit. I'm going to unveil more of it as we go, but just understand it's going to be big. We'll be back 2.5 minutes more of the show. All right, folks, let's bring in our next guest, our own RAV correspondent, Oscar L. Blue Ramirez, who's currently in Mexico, bringing us information on, get this, a new migrant caravan, and get this part of it. It could be as high as 2,000 people who are walking from Mexico's southern border to cross into the United States. Oscar, people are still trying to cross our border. First of all, describe where you are. I've been to that location. It's a fascinating location. Tell us about where you are.
Yes, Eric, thank you for the invitation. We are in the commercial line that is the international crossing into the United States of America to the truck drivers. This is the consequence of not putting your country first. And I'm saying Mexico. This is because of the Trump administration has pushed Mexico to do this. And this is the whole line. It is about 2 to 3 hours to cross every time, every day. Meticulous inspections by the U.S. Customs. This is good. It is pushing the country of Mexico to invest more in their security and ultimately pushing the international investors to also push the government to put their country first. So, yes, we're located right here next door, right here to the border wall area.
And we'll get to the caravan in 1 second, but I think the folks need to understand this is a long line, a caravan line of commercial vehicles that are loaded up with everything, whatever, produce, chickens, who knows, just loaded in the back. And they pull into an area and they x-ray the whole 18-wheeler all the way around. They see if there's anything funky going on, and if they have to pull them, but it takes time. And so that's why, when you talk about the supply chain, it does bog down the supply chain somewhat, but they find a lot of drugs in some of those vehicles, right, Oscar?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And just for that, right here behind me, there is a canine station right here. Actually, the canine, it is right now on the move. If you see it right there on the back, and it's a canine that is going directly to the truck driver, inspectioning the truck right there, doing meticulous inspections. This did not happen under the Biden administration, Eric. This was not occurring under the Biden administration. You're actually seeing a canine doing the work inspection in vehicles, inspection in motor, truck drivers and their loads, 53-foot trailers, 48-foot trailers, everything that is crossing the United States of America. This is the threat of a tariff. This is the Trump administration pushing Mexico to do better inspections, to lower down and cracking down the crossing of fentanyl and illegal migrants into the United States of America, Eric.
Yeah, I've seen the drugs hidden in fake gas tanks, so those big monster gas tanks on the side of the 18-wheelers. Sometimes they'll put gas in them. Sometimes they'll put gas on the outside, drugs in the middle. It's fascinating how smart some of these criminals are. Oscar, tell us about 2,000 strong caravan making their way to the border.
Yeah, just a month ago, we visited the south of the border and we interviewed the leader of the caravans, which I have walked with under, covering for RAP, more than 10 caravans to them. And ultimately, he told us that there's a big bottleneck of migrants inside of the border between 20 to 25,000 in the lower states of Mexico, then the speculated 30 to 35,000 in the middle parts of Mexico, then the hundreds of thousands in the north border that connect to the United States. This basically, tomorrow, there's going to be a caravan that is going to leave the south border into the central parts of Mexico. They have already said that their intentions is not to go to the United States, but establish and assimilate themselves in the better parts of the country. This basically exposes the lies of the Mexican president that she told Kristi Noem that she already has returned more than 500,000 migrants into the country. That is a complete obvious lie. The border is still open. Caravans are still being formulated. And ultimately, it tells you that this is continuing, that a lot of the migrants are waiting to see if the border is going to be reopened, if CBP-1 app is going to be activated. And this is why it is so critical and important, the midterms and the next elections, Eric, for the future of the security of the United States.
Where are they coming from, Oscar? Because if it's anywhere outside of Mexico, technically they're not allowed to demand asylum in the United States because, as you know, asylum means go to your next safest country. And if they're coming from Central or South America, that would mean that they would have to stop in Mexico rather than coming into the United States.
Yeah, sadly, under the Democrats, that particularly what you said, it is not what it needs to be happening. It is a third safe country. A lot of them, they come from Honduras, Guatemala, Nicaragua, Venezuela. Those countries, they have other countries that they can establish themselves. But under the Democrats and under the Biden disaster border crisis, nobody had no restriction. You had to, you can cross through a non-port of entry, through a mountain, through a desert, through a river, and you will be admitted, embedded into the United States. I think that has been completely changed drastically. The numbers have dropped, enormously in terms to crossing illegals and through the United States of America. And the majority of these people, they understand that there's no possibility whatsoever right now to cross illegally to the United States of America. But they have on their mind, Eric, that if this thing changes, it is a ticking bomb. I will tell you, if this thing changes into a Democrat president or into some kind of policy in the Senate or in Congress that it will reopen this possibility of them entering, it is a ticking bomb. And you will never going to see this massive flow arriving to the borders of the United States like you've never seen before.
It's like everything else. They're held back right now. They're waiting to see if a pro-Trump Republican wins in 28. And if he doesn't, if it's someone else, it's called pent-up demand. All that demand to come into the country is being pent up, held back for now. And if they open up that border, it will be a monster. It'll be an absolute tsunami of illegals coming across the border. Oscar, stay safe, my friend. Thank you for reporting, as always. Oscar El Blue Ramirez, folks. Thank you. This is it. This is how they're going to try to disguise their party's full-blown lead into blatant socialism. A documented socialist is about to become mayor of New York. It's going to happen, folks. The guy's leading every single poll against every single combination. And several members of the Democrat Party are reveling in that fact. And here comes, wait for it, drum roll, please, the classic Democrat reframing. Watch.
Zoran Mamdani, he's the Democratic candidate, Democratic Socialist candidate there. Democratic leaders are not supporting him. Is that a problem? Do you support him?
So you and I are going to have this conversation, and I'm going to say to you one day, I told you so. This is not a left-right issue. It really isn't. It is an authoritarian versus people who want pragmatic government that makes a difference in the lives of American people. I'm one of these people that says the lines that divide us in America are not nearly as strong as the ties that bind us. Big corporations, people want to keep our eyes on the screen, want to pit us against each other and tell us how much we should hate each other. I'm sorry. the left-right lens is not the right lens to look at this right now.
Oh, come on, Spartacus. We don't like socialists. We don't like communists. That's we fought wars over that, didn't we? So if we go too far left as a party, which Mamdani clearly is, well, then you shouldn't look at it as left versus right anymore, because then we will surely lose. Now, they want you to believe that it's just an issue of authoritarian versus everyone else. And guess who they're calling authoritarian? Trump, which is exactly what the communists said during the Russian Revolution to win over the people's opinion. You know, Cory Booker may be useless, but he's not that useless. He still knows how to deliver propaganda, the party propaganda. And there it is. I would call that he's a useful idiot. That's where communism comes from. A whole bunch of useful idiots spewing communism. What you see is not what you see, they say, but I'm about to expose it all. Remember when inflation was just transitory? Remember that? Janet Yellen. Remember when they redefined what transitory even means?
We would see a specific number of months or quarters where there is a transitory increase. The impacts of our proposed investments are transitory. These are a number of these are transitory, or they're impacted by other factors, and this is still foreseen as a transitory impact on prices. Well, the Federal Reserve and the OECD and others have also said inflation is expected to come down. They continue to say it's transitory. Over time, as the economy is turning back on, we'd see some of these transitory effects. We do anticipate that gas prices and energy prices will go up. That is something that the president has conveyed very clearly to the American public. We also believe it will be temporary and not long-lasting.
Sure, Jen. Or should I say Jen? Suddenly months and then years of hyperinflation are just transitory in order to try and trick Americans into thinking that their suffering will be short-lived when it actually lasted all 4 years of the Biden presidency. That's not transitory. It's called Bidenomics, and it sucked. Democrats have now spent years redefining words and phrases to suit their agenda and their needs. That's called propaganda. By the way, something employed in totalitarian regimes. Think Soviet Union, think Cuba, China, Venezuela, and in terrorist regimes. Think Iran, Gaza under Hamas, Afghanistan under the Taliban. The list goes on and on. Suddenly, they're not pedophiles. No, they're minor attracted persons. They're not illegal aliens. They're undocumented migrants. Joe Biden doesn't have dementia. He's got a cold or COVID for the 17th time. Oh, and he just got back from a long trip 14 days ago. It's not what it is. It's not is, unless you think is something else.
With Ms. Lewinsky, statement that there was no sex of any kind, in any manner, shape, or form with President Clinton was an utterly false statement. Is that correct?
It depends upon what the meaning of the word is. Yes.
Oh, yes, the classic is not what you think it is, and the rest is history. But what is actually true is this. Democrats are so hungry for power, so thirsty to be back in charge, and everything they claim President Trump to be authoritarian, fascist, well, it's them.
This is not a left-right issue. It really isn't. It is an authoritarian versus people who want pragmatic government that makes a difference in the lives of American people.
So in that, we couldn't agree more with Cory when you think about what he just said. And President Trump has enacted the most difference-making pragmatism in government, maybe ever, eliminating racial quotas and DEI practices, no men in women's sports, or, God forbid, men in women's locker rooms, stopping people from coming into the country illegally and enforcing the damn law to deport those who are here illegally, establishing tariffs on foreign countries equal to those they impose on us, keeping taxes low for middle-class Americans, cutting the USAID cord that has enriched the lives of Democrats and everyone involved except the ones it's supposed to enrich, like the needy. These people are desperate. Cory, Hakeem Jeffries, Jasmine Crockett, Chucky Schumer, they reek of desperation. There's been more pragmatic change in America under Trump than any other president or leader in modern history. And instead of actually admitting that fact, Cory Booker is pretending that he opposes it. And in a sick, twisted 1984 fantasy, these people are latching on to some socialist dream, the New York momentum with Mamdani as their beacon of hope.
How is this not a unifying message, not just for Democrats, but for everybody in the working class and the middle class?
You got it, Joe. It is. And in fact, that's the mayoral race right now in New York City. That's Zohran Mamdani. How does this young guy come in, doesn't have the money to spend that Cuomo has, doesn't have the position that Adams has, doesn't have the backing of the billionaires? How does that work? He comes in and he talks about how to make New York City affordable for families.
And to be clear, that means government-owned grocery stores, removing the police force, government housing, and many illegals in government-subsidized housing, by the way, as well. They're gunning all in. All in. They've heard what he's saying, and they're all in for it. This is what they're going with, folks. This is their answer to President Trump. They're rewriting history as it's making things more affordable. Is that true? Well, who's paying attention? And by the way, Pocahontas, who's paying for all that stuff? But Americans couldn't even afford barbecues and Thanksgiving under Joe Biden. And all Kamala Harris told them when she was running for president was, it's not as bad as you think it is or it feels. And oh, by the way, I grew up in the middle class with a lawn.
When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
Are they better off now than they were 4 years ago?
Making life more affordable for people. What are one or two specific things you have in mind for that?
So I was raised as a middle-class kid. I grew up a middle-class kid.
But now, after she embarrassed herself for 3 months on the campaign trail, Kamala is throwing in the towel. But is she? But not because she admits her failure, of course not. It's because the system is rigged against her.
Why is it then when we think we want to improve a system or change it that we're always on the outside on bended knee or trying to break down the door? Shouldn't we also be inside the system? And that has been my career. Recently, I made the decision that for now, I don't want to go back in the system. I think it's broken.
Kamala was just a puppet, useful to them only when they thought she could keep them in power. Now Cammie finds out that she's useless to them, a nobody, a nothing who can't even make a run in California happen. And she takes to a canceled late night show last week to sell her sad little book with a political pawn for a host to complain about how the system chewed her up and spit her out. Pretty sad, isn't it? Lies, victimhood, all just a sad metaphor for a failed party. Moderate Democrats sit idle with nothing to offer other than scream, never Trump. That's all they got, while allowing the progressive left to make gains. Mamdani, that lunatic in Minnesota. The Democrats are in a dangerous tailspin. Nothing is going to stop them until they crash. And even loyal supporters can't keep them from this in the end. We'll be back 2.5 minutes. Well, our good friend Jasmine Crockett's been on a roll lately, but she's also been in a downward spiral for months. Her toxic insults have gone from occasionally to daily, and her name calling has gotten more and more aggressive with every single day. This insane woman just dropped a crazy word salad about her and the rest of the Texas Democrats acting like political thugs. Listen to this mad woman.
There was a benefit to shining a light on what it was that they were trying to do in the dark in Texas. So unfortunately, we've seen our numbers fall now that they have these voter restrictions in place. But I do think it's important for us to have the conversation.
No, please. How about a little more from Crazy Crockett, who says the quiet part out loud more times than she'll ever realize she's even doing. She went on CNN and admitted that the Democrat support dropped in her state after voter ID was mandated for mail-in ballots. Take a listen to this nonsense.
I'm sick of the gerrymandering, but if Donald Trump is going to put
a criminal attorney general who absolutely is like wanting to be Trump 2.0 himself, and he wants to put warrants out for people, even though like he's the one that was under federal investigation for years, and he's the one that had felony indictments pending for years, and of course was avoiding prosecution for years. Yeah, because like that's what makes you real MAGA, is like you got to be about this thug life. You got to be like cheating on your wife. You got to at least be going to get impeached if you ain't been impeached, because he was impeached. He just wasn't convicted again. We've kind of seen this play out before. Anyway, but he got the nerve to talk about who should be arrested. Give me a break. Kind of like, you know, the orange orangutan, you know, the Timu Hitler. he on the same nonsense too. Bro, you the real criminal. Like, stop coming for people that's out here in these streets just trying to make this country really work by going to work, and so you grabbing them up at work. That's a whole other issue.
Do you think the political discourse in America is going straight through the toilet? Do you think, do you know what Timu Hitler, Third Reich? I mean, how much? She's nuts. I'm thrilled she's leading their party. It's going to be a bloodbath if she runs in 2028. There's a difference between the political jousting that we've all come to know and blatantly attacking someone with profanity. Jasmine Crockett upped herself, her own heightened rhetoric. She had some very choice words for President Trump yesterday at a rally in Arizona. Be careful. Listen to this.
Because the Supreme Court has paved the way for half the stuff that we see that's going on. Listen, Donald Trump is a piece of okay, we know that. Yes, he is.
That's where we are. How about Congress censoring her for saying that kind of thing about the President of the United States? The President of the United States, folks, called him, I'm not even going to repeat it. Cory Booker, remember that guy? When Cory Booker isn't whining on the Senate floor, you can often find him on CNN either spreading lies about Trump, talking in unrealistic absolutes, or defending the Democrats with sheer hypocrisy. Here's the latest from Spartacus Booker, who is sick and tired of all the gerrymandering, not just from his Democrat colleagues, though.
I'm sick of the gerrymandering, but if Donald Trump is going to push to gerrymander Texas, he's going to break the rules in order to win. He can't win by the rules they are right now, so he thinks you should break the rules. For Democrats to sit back and just say, okay, we're going to play by the Queen's rules, no. I'm telling you right now, we need to win in the midterm. We need to stop him from cheating, from lying, and from stealing the election. And if they're doing something to add their congressional seats, we need to look at our ways of doing that right now.
Guy's nuts. I mean, He's already talking about running for president in 2028. Unbelievable. Suddenly, Morning Joe Scarborough wants everyone to move on and forget all about that Russia hoax. Isn't that convenient? Check it out.
To believe Donald Trump's version of this event.
Yeah, but I agree, Mika, with what Kenny said. Like, why keep going back to it? Why keep muddying the water when you have Marco Rubio in the Senate Intel Committee, your own Secretary of State, saying Paul Manafort in the 2016 Trump campaign posed a, quote, grave counterintelligence threat to the United States of America. You have John Durham admitting that there wasn't a Clinton conspiracy, that actually the two emails at the heart of that, even though he spent the entire report trying to prove this, in the annex, he hides it in the annex. And, well, yeah, the two key emails were actually most likely products of Russian disinformation. Like, move on. Get past it. The only people talking about Russia right now are Tulsi Gabbard and others.
Yeah, I don't know. I just heard Jasmine Crockett talking about something that happened with Trump 4 years ago. Please, Joe, quit being a total freaking hypocrite. How about it? But this guy, remember him, Senator Alex Padilla, hasn't been right about anything, especially immigration, never once. His latest mind-numbing take is that illegals who broke the law to come here should be considered residents because, well, they've been here long enough. I guess they want their vote that badly. Listen.
My focus has been on the people who have been here, millions of long-term residents of the United States who happen to be undocumented, that have been the target of this administration's increasingly aggressive and cruel arrest, detention, and deportation policy.
So if you commit murder, Alex, in California, your state, and you get away with it for 3 years, is that enough to be, you're all right. You're a murderer, but you've been here long enough. I guess we'll just let that law you broke pass by without throwing you out of the country, throwing you in jail. You're wrong again. Liberals are still doing the most insane things to blow off a little Trump-related stress. In Minnesota, a bunch of deranged freaks smashed televisions and watermelons in a smash room as a way of standing up to President Trump. Watch these extremely mentally ill people do what they do best. Yeah. Oh, my goodness. They're really freakish. Folks, these people are really, really nuts. Does that make you feel better? Anyway, all right, let's come out of this. Let's come out of this. We got some important stuff too. Let's see. First, let's do this. Does this work? Does that work? I thought we'd be able to get the thumbs up. How about this? Does that work? Come on, Mad Dog. I thought it was going to work. All right, folks. When we come back from this break, guess who's up? Mr. Stephen K. Bannon. All right, folks, we said it before, we'll say it again. The favorite time of the show when I get to speak with Stephen K. Bannon. Mr. Bannon, some news that I think you said you were very interested in. The Texas, well, you tell us. Texas State has decided to track down some lawmakers that have broken the law. Tell us about it.
Well, I think they gavelled in at 4 o'clock our time and immediately gavelled out. The House, the Texas House guys, the bulk of them are up in Illinois hiding. Pritzker's hiding them. There's some in New York and some in Boston, but the bulk of them are in Illinois, the most gerrymandered state in the union. The Texas House is now saying they're going to play hardball. We're going to have Brian Harrison on to talk about this, but I think they're going to send out arrest warrants. I think they're moving very quickly and very dramatically to sort this mess out. But it's a massive victory for Republicans, I think, Eric, any way you look at it. Because
can they proceed without him?
There's so much other bases.
Yeah. Go ahead. Can they just
if they're looking at right now about vacating the seats. There's all types of different alternatives they're looking at. If they vacate the seats, they may be able to go ahead. They have a quorum. I think there's a lot going on right now. We're going to get Brian Harrison to break it all down for us. He was on CNN this afternoon, and let's say this. Directionally, this is great. We got these guys on the run. We're going to get this redistricting done, and it just shows the nation, and particularly shows Texas, how cowardly and feckless the radical Democratic Party is in there. So it's a big win for us.
Yeah, it's a huge win in getting redistricting. Elections have consequences, folks. I mean, that's really what at the end of the day, what this is all about. Democrats don't want to admit that. How many seats could Texas pick up if it's properly, if it's redistricted the way Republicans would like to see it happen?
The new map has 5. And here's the interesting thing, Eric. 2 of these are in the Rio Grande Valley. One of them's Crockett's seat, I think, outside Houston. Another one I think is outside San Antonio, but 2 of these are in the Rio Grande Valley. These are principally Hispanic-oriented districts. A lot of them, they're refocused. President Trump won the Hispanic vote in 24. We did very well in 22, so I think it's that momentum, and we got to keep delivering for working-class Hispanics, particularly on border security and on jobs. But they think if done properly, this is a 5-seat pickup, which could be everything. Also, DeSantis has announced 5 seats in Florida. A lot of this is about the demographic shift post-pandemic. So that's why it wasn't captured in the 2020 census.
And therein lies the other question. They take the census again, eliminate, just count American citizens. That House makeup could dramatically shift to the right.
You nailed it. I think if we do, I was very involved in the 2020 census when the Commerce Department really didn't back us up. Stephen Miller and I had in there we would not count illegal aliens. I think the courts would have backed us up too. The Commerce Department at the time was full of rhinos, kind of botched it, so they did get counted. But I think now if you took out illegal aliens and looked at the demographic shift to the South and the Southwest, and even in some of these states, I think you'd pick up 20 seats. That's how dramatic. That's how dramatic it is, and that's why. Or 30 math. Could be 30.
If there are 20 million illegals in this country, which is probably a low estimate, 20 million divided by 320 million, whatever that number is, about 8%. You take 8% more seats, move them to Republican, you're pushing 33 seats if I'm doing the math right, and that really would be the redistricting of by just counting American citizens.
Yes. This is going to happen. A big part of this is going to happen anyway in 2030. But, Eric, it doesn't say you can't have multiple census. It just says you have to have one every 10 years. I think it's after we get this done now, I would call upon a mid-decade census right after this. Get Texas and Florida done. The Democrats are in total meltdown. They're threatening to go change the constitutions of California and New York, and Hochul came out today. So you have Newsom and Hochul firing back on this. But it's a fight. Let's have this fight now. If we have this fight now, let's put these seats away. So really proud of what's happening down in Texas.
What here, Marjorie Taylor Greene earlier on the show, she's upset. She did an interview with the Daily Mail, and she's upset with Republicans. Let's put it this way. She said Republicans are moving away from America First MAGA. She talked about some of the people whispering to President Trump. Do you agree with her?
I agree that President Trump's doing an amazing job, but I think you see this weekend, this fight. I mean, we should be in a real recess right now and not some phony pro forma recess. And President Trump this afternoon should be putting forward 160 names for confirmation, principally the second and third tier and very important jobs in his cabinet and in the agencies, also U.S. attorneys. This was all done. You saw this over the weekend. This is classic. Standard stock Republican establishment. What's happening in Texas, the reason we're so happy, if it was not for the War Room and other Real America Voice shows and people like Brian Harrison, nothing would have gotten done. The Bush establishment did not want to do this 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago. They wanted just this opportunity just to kind of pass on. They didn't want to bring it up in the special session. They waited, they dragged their feet, but it was pressure being put on them. So no, I think there's a lot of truth in what Marjorie Taylor Greene's talking about. There's tons of policies that we have President Trump's back, and the establishment Republicans just want to have the same kind of Chamber of Commerce policies they've ever had and not really get to the heart of it. So I think that, and President Trump came up today with this, you don't get emergency aid if your state is not buying from Israel or something. It looked very convoluted, and people are questioning like who's advising him on these things. So I think Marjorie Taylor Greene has a tendency to kind of be very close to her constituents and kind of channels the truth. She channels the grassroots.
Well, let me ask you this. So whatever this is, this recess, rather than being a true recess where Trump could appoint who he wants to, the judges he wants to, there's this gavel in, gavel out process that happens, not allowing him to do that. So is it Johnson? Is it Thune? Is it both? Who do we point the finger at for this? And why isn't Trump leaning on these?
Well, they lied to him over the weekend. I gotten very involved with the Mike Lee. Polly Pockets Johnson lied to him about having to bring the House back. He didn't have to do that. Thune kind of tapped him along with, because remember, Thune's just the spokesmodel for the McConnell apparatus, right? It's the McConnell apparatus, the McConnell's operatives. They hate Trump. It's absurd. If you're the party in power and you have the Senate, you always go on recess and let the executive branch do what they do. If you're out of power, I have no problem with the Democratic Senate doing, or what we did during Obama's time or Biden's time. It's absolutely logical that party out of power, you don't want to give them recess appointments. But if you're in power, you're essentially saying you don't trust the president. I mean, that's what it is. Not essentially. You are saying we do not trust the president on recess appointments. Therefore, we'll just do the pro forma. It's a humiliation. It's terrible, and they lied to him.
It is. It's. So what is he? I mean, he seems to have a Svengali control over these folks on some of the policies he wants to push through. But when it comes to these judges, appointing judges is one of the most important things a president can do, a party can do. This one seems to be a big one. Steve, final thought. Your show's coming up in 20.
Yeah. Final thought, we're going to start with John Solomon. The great John Solomon today called shot on the Pam Bondi announcing this grand jury. Huge news on the seditious conspiracy, the treasonous conspiracy. Eric, this is going to keep us in business. This is going to be the top A block, I think, for a while. I think this is so important.
Got it. We will follow your lead tomorrow. Steve Bannon, thank you so much for your time.